all so much. Thank you. I'm going to hold this. So like it says, my legal name is Jitendradas, loves life. Loves life. Mr. Loves Life. And every time I'm in the airport, it's always a lot of fun because the last time we were in the airport, the dogs were smelling me, and then we went through the security area, and they didn't even ask me to take off my heart-shaped sunglasses because they just knew it was me. So that was a lot of fun. I'll get you to go to my first slide for me. And the first thing that I love is this parable. Why are we ever unhappy? Why are we unhappy? The key to our unhappiness is 99.9% of what we do before we wake up in this dream is for an imaginary self, and there isn't one. There isn't one. And it's like we have this idea that we actually exist as a separate self, but we don't. And realizing that is enlightenment. So let's look a little bit more deeply at how we don't exist through some of the words of the mystics and the masters. And I'll get you to go to the next slide for me. This is Papaji's. Everyone heard of Papaji? Anyone heard of Papaji? Yeah, Papaji is a great Indian master, great saint. He said, mind is your foe. Mind is your friend. When attached to sense objects, it is your enemy. But when it aspires to come to satsang, the same mind is a friendly mind. It will give you freedom. So this is on my arm right here, Sat Nam. Can you say Sat Nam? Sat Nam. Sat Nam is the sound of the inhale. Sat is the inhale. Every breath you breathe, the truth is kissing you, love is kissing you. And Nam is the sound of the exhale, and that's your identity. So Sat Nam is actually saying, my true identity is love. The true identity of who I am is joy, love, peace, happiness, freedom itself. And so when we come to satsang, satsang is basically somebody with or without words telling you that, or sharing that with you, or helping you to realize that. And doesn't it feel good to be told that you don't have to buy anything, or do anything, or move anywhere, or change anything, or lose weight, or change your hair color, or anything at all? You can actually just be happy right now by going to satsang. Any meeting where there's no intended outcome to change anything is a satsang. Cool? So let's look a little deeper at satsang and go one slide further through. So somebody's talking to the master, Nisargadatta Maharaj. Anyone heard of Nisargadatta Maharaj in here other than my yogis? There was a chain-smoking Indian master, if you can believe it, who lived in India. And when he was a young boy, he was just like everybody else. He started smoking at a young age, and he didn't really have any sort of spiritual practice or a spiritual attitude, but something happened to him in his 20s where he got really, really hungry for God. He really wanted to know who he was. He really wanted to wake up. And he went off in pursuit of a teacher. And when he found a teacher, and he was still smoking, he was smoking from a very young age actually, he was smoking his cigarettes, and as he was smoking his cigarettes, his teacher told him to focus on the question, who am I? Only. Don't let your mind go anywhere else. Only who am I? The mind is tending to go somewhere else until you bring it to satsang. So he's going off into all sorts of non-essentials. And one of my teachers, James Twyman, did an interview just a couple of weeks ago with somebody named James Finley. And James Finley said, that which is essential never imposes itself. That which is inessential constantly imposes itself. Think about that. That which is inessential. Can you hear me? Is this? Oh yeah. I'm pretty loud anyway. Okay? That which is inessential never imposes itself. So the light of God that you are, the joy of what you already are, never imposes itself. But the idea that I have to impress you or get anything from you or that anything has to change or be different is constantly attempting to steal from the present moment, to try to move me back into ego, into identity as a separate self. That's basically what the ego is. That's what it does. So Maharaj was getting a question here about dying, about the death of the body. And what is his response? I am dead already. I am dead already. He's like, what? Dead already? Or rather, neither alive nor dead. And when I read the book, I am that. So this is a book that was never written. A book that was never written. It's all discourses by a man who never wanted to write a book, never wanted to be famous, he was asked to go on tour. He said, I'm not leaving my apartment. I was about to say the F word, but I want to turn you off. But he would be sitting here smoking cigarettes, and most people who would look at that would say, you can't smoke a cigarette and be enlightened. You can't be an enlightened person smoking a cigarette. How do you know that? How do you know that? Do you know that? Are you sure you know that? So that's what he's saying here. Rather, neither alive nor dead. You see my body behaving the habitual way and draw your own conclusions. He very well could have been smoking a cigarette when he was saying this, because he was a chain smoker. So we think in our minds, based on conditioning, that something is right, wrong, good and bad, and yes and no, and da-da-da-da. And this causes us actually unhappiness. What happens to the body biochemically when we think that we know what somebody else is supposed to do is the glands secrete a stress hormone to actually tell it it's in danger. So if you think that what I'm saying is nonsense based on the filter that you've learned, the things that you've picked up, then your glands will tell a message to the body, contracting the body, saying to the body, hey, we need fear hormones right now. But if you don't do that, and instead you don't draw your own conclusions, go in the other direction, don't have any conclusions, be inconclusive. What's the inconclusive? I don't know. I don't know. If you sit in I don't know, how does it feel to just sit in I don't know right now? Can you feel that peace? That's the peace of God. That's what everybody that you've ever met wants. That's what I want. That's why I'm here. I'm here because I want the peace of God. I want to share this desire for the peace of God with you. So let's look a little deeper. We struggle ourselves to admit that our conclusions bind nobody but us. Anything that I think is right, wrong, good, bad, actually doesn't cause you a problem. I was in a situation yesterday, I'm going to tell you, where one of my friends was so friendly to another one of my friends, and this other friend had some sort of a grievance in her mind with the friend who was being friendly, and said, I don't want you to hug me, I don't like the way that this goes. And the friend who was getting the hug, receiving the energy, was just so still. She didn't draw any conclusions, but you could really feel, and I could really feel the difference between a person who's just being loved, just being still, just not knowing. And then somebody who has a conclusion, you're not my friend, or whatever it might be. If you have ever had that experience where you've been loving and you felt like you were loving, that's your opportunity for compassion. That's our opportunity for peace. That's our opportunity for recognizing where we're at, how far we've come, how deeply we've realized the love of God. Do see that the image that you have of me may be altogether wrong. Yes? And the image that I have of you may be altogether wrong. I don't know how enlightened you are. You don't know how enlightened I am. You know, we have these phones now, and I could be standing here and up here and talking to you, and it's not the truth, and it's not what's happening, but I could go off the stage and immediately be checking how many likes I got on Facebook on my last post, and that could be something that you don't even see that's coming from the background. We're actually looking for love. I'm looking to get something from you underlying. That's suffering. That's suffering. So, the image that you have may be altogether wrong. Your image of yourself is wrong too, but that's your problem, right? Maharaj, this master, as he would be smoking a cigarette and telling people the truth, that often they didn't want to hear, he would just be like chopping really, really hard. These words were very, very intense. He would scream and wave his hand and kick somebody out. One day, a Hare Krishna was fighting with him, and he kicked this person out, and he said, "Get out of here." And he said, "Well, that's not a very enlightened thing to do." No, and maybe you don't know that. Maybe we don't know that, right? Do we know that? Just say no. We don't know that. So, do you see the image that you have maybe be altogether wrong? Your image of yourself is wrong too, but that is your problem. Do you like my little emojis that I add in to give myself little directives? But you need not create problems for me and then ask me to solve them, right? So your projections onto me, saying whatever, that you believe me or whatever and then say that there's a problem with me, because you've perceived this, because you've believed in a perception which isn't even true. And then you say, now you have to fit into my mold. No, not true. Okay? And the last thing, I'm neither creating problems nor solving them. That's the end. That's somebody who's finished the journey. You've finished the journey because now you're just listening to Spirit. You're listening to Spirit and you have one desire. What's the one desire? I want the peace of God. I want the peace of God. I want to know who I am. And these are the same thing. So let's look at what happens for somebody else. There's simply no polite way to tell people they've dedicated their lives to an illusion. There's just no nice way if you're really going to help somebody out to really finish this thing off and wake up in the dream, to help them to actually see the reality that your goal, your future, your children, your whatever, 99.9% of the problems that we have are because we're doing things for an imaginary person and there isn't one. It's the first thing that we talked about. So are you all convinced of this already? Yeah? So let's move on. You're ready. Oh, go back. One more. There you go. So this is a piece of advice from the Jitendradas Maharaj, the great master that I was going from. His advice to us is limit your interests and activities to what is needed for you and your dependents' barest needs. Save all your energies and time for breaking the wall your mind has built around you. Believe me, you will not regret it. So all of our conditioning, okay? You're sitting and you're quiet, and standing quietly, being. It gets way easier to just be. When you can see so clearly that all of our energy that we built constructing a wall of an imaginary future based on an imaginary learned past is actually our prison. Actually our prison. And if you hadn't have broken free from prison, you wouldn't even be here. So we're just actually in satsang now. Nobody's trying to lecture anybody. I hope that you don't feel lecture. I hope that you're just having a good time with me in an active meditation, in an active experience of resting into the joy of God that you already are, the light of the world that you already are, the peace of God that is already you and yours. You are that. And doesn't it feel good to know it? Let's go one more slide. So this is something. Does anyone know James Twyman other than my friends who live with me? So I live with this New York Times best-selling author with my husband in Mexico. And this man, James Twyman, has transformed my life. We work for him. We wake up and meditate with him 5 days a week. He just has become such an important part of our life. And on one of the stairwells in Namaste Village, where we live in Mexico, we put this up. I put this up, actually. And James left it there because he likes it so much. Discard all traditional standards. Here's another piece of advice for you. Discard all traditional standards. Leave them to the hypocrites. Ooh. To the hypocrites. To the hypocrites. Okay? Only what liberates you from desire and fear and wrong ideas is good. As long as you worry about sin and virtue, you will have no peace. Here's sin on one hand. Here's virtue on the other hand. You know, COVID was the best example of this. How people got divided in so many ways. James Twyman had people come to Namaste Village and ask him, you know, I'm a molecular geneticist, one man from Toronto, and I want to know what your views are on vaccination. And James Twyman said, I refuse the conversation. I refuse. And he said, and the man said, well, I think this is a really important thing. And James said, not at all. You're just confused. There's no level of importance of this other than you want to be right at some level. You want to think that you know what I should do because of a program. Because of a program. And we were all kind of sucker punched in some way, one way or another, except for those of us who took the only stance that was the right stance, which is no stance. I don't know. Doesn't it feel good to not know? It brings joy to not know. It just brings a peace. I'm starting to cry. Am I not knowing anything? That's humility. The acceptance of divinity is the ground of my being without me having to lean in to anything. Humility, say this to me. Humility is the acceptance of divinity is the ground of my being. Can you say that? Humility is the acceptance of divinity is the ground of my being. Is it too long? Humility is the acceptance of divinity as the ground of my being. Your being the same. It's one being. Divinity is the reality of life. Let's go on. Mankind, this is my guru, Paramahansa Yogananda. Has everyone heard of Yogananda? It's another one of my big teachers in this life, big friend of mine in this life. It's Yogananda. Yeah, he says, mankind is engaged in an eternal quest for that something else he hopes will bring him happiness complete and unending. For those individuals' souls who have sought and found God, the search is over. He is that something else. God is what you've always wanted. But God is such an abstract thing. God is simply peace. Peace of God. God is simply, I want to know who I am. I want to know who I really am. If that's what you want, you've already found God. And then we have this friend, another friend of ours in Namaste Village, Calico, Hickey, this beautiful woman, soul. She weighs about 300 pounds physically, and she's one of the most enlightened people I've ever met in the whole world. She can hardly walk. So you look at her, you go, well, that couldn't be an enlightened person. Wrong. It's only based on conditioning that we think that enlightenment looks this way or takes this form. Calico had cancer, terminal cancer, stage 4 cancer. 16 years later, now, 16 years later, she doesn't know if she has cancer, but what she knew was that she thought she wanted the peace of God, but really, I want peace of God, and I want a healthy body. You can't have both. If you want a healthy body, then you don't want the peace of God. If you want something related to the body, then you don't want the peace of God. Because in order to want the peace of God, you actually have to abandon everything else. And that can be really tough. That can be really difficult to understand. To want the peace of God, that doesn't mean you have to give everything up. Papaji would say, first want the peace of God. First want to know who you are. First realize yourself. And then everything else will be added unto you. Health will be natural. Vitality will come. Beautiful spiritual connections. Holy interactions. Wonderfully aligned experiences will all flow through that. You might just find yourself at the Center for Spiritual Living with a like-minded group in an active meditation, an active experience of satsang. Sat, truth. Sang, coming together to realize that what you want is already what you really are. So I'm going to finish this little program with a song for you and a prayer. Are you ready? And I'll get you to join me with the song if you feel so inclined. It's in the words of Yogananda. Can you all see? You can hear me just as well. I don't really need a microphone, do I? Did I ever need the microphone? So, this is Yogananda playing the same instrument. This was the instrument that he played. It's called the Dalsatina. And he played this instrument to get lost in the love of God. Because there's two ways to get lost in the love of God. Two ways to actually feel the deep love of God. One is called yoga. And the other one is called vichara. Vichara is to actually inquire into the deep, deep, deep realization that you're nothing that you can understand in the cognitive mind. Nothing that you can understand in limited concepts of mind. And yoga is the devotion of reaching toward what you really are, the fullness of what you are. So, I'm going to play you a song to warm up your brain, and you can sing it with me, okay? I'm actually going to sit down. Here. You can sing it with me, if you'd like. And the words are simple. I will sing thy name, I will drink thy name, and get all drunk, O Lord, on thy name. I will sing thy name, I will drink thy name, and get all drunk, O Lord, on thy name. I will sing thy name, I will drink thy name, and get all drunk, O Lord, on thy name. I will sing thy name. want you just to close your eyes for a moment and pray with me. Pray with me so deeply right now. So deeply. O Lord, saturate me with thy presence. Many kindle a little light of desire for God and then fail to give it fuel, and the fire dies. The flame of love and yearning must be fueled again and again with daily practice of meditation and self-discipline. The glory of the stars, the luster of the sun's rays, the tiny flashing drops of rain, and the glimmer of my thoughts and devotion I have gathered to offer unto thee, O Holy Spirit. Saturate my being with thy vitality, my heart with thy loving presence, and my mind with thy wisdom, my soul with thy divine consciousness. All my devotion, all my love, all my soul's craving, all my ambitions, I lay at thy feet. Rouse my devotion, rouse my love, and in the light of self-realization, teach me to behold thy face within and without, in everything. Teach me to demand thy presence until I actually know thou art with me in the temple of activity, in the temple of silence, in the temple of every thought, every feeling, and above all, in the temple of my own loving heart. May thy presence and consciousness fill my heart. May I realize thou art the only reality. Father, I do not want to offer a mechanical prayer to thee. I demand thy presence. For thou art my Father. I am thy child. Teach me to pray with thy love and to demand with thy consciousness. Thou art not hiding from me. I am hiding from thee. Make me realize this. Thou art ever just behind my heart, silently listening to my prayers and thoughts. Bless me that I may walk the path of self-realization until I reach thee. Teach me to see the lightning flash that glimmers in thy face of omnipresence. Lead me away from temptation, but if it is thy will to test me, O Father, may I find thee more tempting than any other temptation. My soul is thine.